Hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and this is our third day. We're going to take a look at um, an Italian release, English version of Apocalypse, specifically a book known as The Monsters of the Apocalypse. This is a 5e Dungeons and Dragons setting based on the book of Revelations from the Bible. And I'm sure there have been plenty of game settings and books and things of that nature based around the Bible, but this one was a Kickstarter that I backed, and I noticed that there's not very much talk about it. It's very, I don't know. I'm not familiar with black metal, but it feels like a black metal punch to the face, and the art design is excellent. The setting is interesting. Um, we are in the RPG community are consummate lovers of apocalyptic and end of world settings and locations and post-apocalyptic adventuring, and the book of Revelations is a prime example of imaginative fodder. And to have this written by Italian game designers and having the English version, I thought we would take a look at it. So again, there's two other episodes on this channel where we decide to take a bit of a deep dive page through. I'm not sure exactly if you would call it a review so much as oh, well, thank you very much there, Drew. Yeah, we're going to still take a look at it, talk about it, and mind you, I know very little about the details of Revelations. So, for those of you that have much more information and knowledge about the biblical uh, descriptors that are in this fantastical setting based on it, um, judge for yourself whether you think this is a good representative, and of course whether it is gameable representative of said thing. Oh no. Yeah, we went to a concert last night. What the hell are you doing here? Oh man, it's so funny. Oh well, thank you very much, there. Really appreciate it, guys. Okay, so let's get into this document here. So the um, it is divided in this is the monsters book, and before each very notable and common stat block for these massive monsters slash NPCs. They are divided up. So we have the Lord's hosts, which are all the powers of heaven. There's the adversaries horde, the powers from hell and the abyss. Uh, the scores of conquest. So the title, the appearance on this cover here are the Four Horsemen, and divided into, let's see, we've got war in red in the very front here, and then to the back left we have conquest, uh, famine, yeah, conquest to the left, famine to the right, and then death at the very back top. And in this setting, after of course being released after the each one released when each seal is broken. The first four seals are broken and they are released. They still exist in this world, having ridden off to the four corners of what we would consider today to be Europe. It doesn't look or anything like it does after the apocalypse, but they still exist as physical beings. So there's the scores of conquest, the legions of war, the ranks of famine, the armies of death, and then there's threats on the plane. And the threats on the plane are essentially the other environmental and physical threats that exist in this devastated world, from uh, you know, falling meteorites and poisonous gases and legions of the undead, as well as some descriptions of what this apocalyptic world looks like. Like, for example, your player survivors may be standing on the cusp of a hill and look out and see hills and mountains, but when you look closer, they might actually be the bodies of the dead or something of that nature. So we looked a little bit at this the other day, but we can get a little bit deeper into who these characters are, their importance in this setting, and maybe even some of their capabilities and such. I personally, I'm not really big on having to have lots of uh, gaming stats because I'm it's very difficult for me mathematically to figure out how powerful one creature is for another when it comes to game stats. But if you're into that and you can take a look over, my shoulder and see what these are like, that's cool. Oh, let me change this so you guys can actually have a better view of this. You don't need to see my friggin' face. Um, there we go. Now this is um, Metatron, and it states that. By the way, you will get a bit of flavor text, so you'll get the name, a little paragraph of flavor text, maybe some descriptor or history, and then maybe 3 to 5 paragraphs of details about that. So you can see that below this, it does say like he who sits upon the throne, witness of creation, and goes into some other detail, word of the Lord, and apotheosis. Apotheosis is actually a mechanical effect as well, in which if this monster, adversary, NPC, whatever, is brought low, they will change into their higher form in preparation for the last battle. So, yeah, here we go. His palace is encircled by angels of all orders, singing of glory, love, and devotion. The imposing, holy structure barely screens the light pulsing from his rooms. Therein lies the Lord's word, his voice, the only celestial entity allowed to sit upon a throne. From its height, Metatron's massive figure dwarfs all others. And I don't know if it's pronounced Metatron. Metatron? Anyway, his 6 flame-colored wings stretch along the hall's immense vault, barely contained. His countenance is as indescribably beautiful as the aura he emanates is imposing and severe. Skin the color of bronze, purified by flame, gaze of burning diamonds. One menacing sword rests upon his lap, while a second blade emerges from his mouth like a flame of pure light. The exquisite features are framed by a crown of celestial gold, above which the top of the head is ablaze. His lips do not move, though his voice is everywhere, thrumming throughout creation itself. And there is an let's get to the image of Metatron here, and this is that individual. And in short, let's see if do they have a reference? Oh, you can't see the reference here. There's other images in here. Um, Above and to the left of Metatron, there are angels flying. Those angels aren't in the background in a distance. Those angels are the size of human beings compared to this individual sitting upon the throne, the only one that is allowed to sit upon the throne. And according to this setting, is the only one that can sit upon the throne and speak for the very voice of God itself. So yeah, this world and this setting doesn't really beat around the bush too much, but this is Metatron. It talks about Metatron's lair and regional effects. Part of me is a little bit like I I understand the desire to want to stat everything out. I believe this and other I want to say divinely empowered beings I almost feel like there should just be other rules involved. Like they seem to be countdown, Armageddon, non. You can't walk up to it and punch it with a sword, right? But apparently you can, or at least you could try to. But amongst this giant stat block of a thing, oh, maybe there is an image here of some people standing at the bottom. Uh no, no, there isn't. Um, so something important to see here, which is wild to me, and I love it, but I think it's wild. So we have the name of we've got the name, we got the armor class and hit points and the speed and whatnot, and even the stats are pretty ridiculous, right? Like strength 24, dex 20, con 25, intelligence 30, wisdom 30, charisma 30. It's like is this really a person you should actually be interacting with in any deeper level other than social? I don't know. Uh, but most of these angelic and demonic fiendish creatures have something known as apotheosis. And despite having despite having 525 hit points, it also has apotheosis it can use once a day. And it goes in a little more detail in this stat block, but it says if Metatron drops to 250 hit points, it's a little more than half, or less, he regains 250 hit points, recharges half his spent legendary resistances rounded down, and can use the options feature in the apocalyptic actions section for 1 hour. Now, I mean, there's this big giant. Let's see if we can get this done here. Let's go do the 2-page layout. This is the giant ass stat block. Wild, wild. But anyway, going on, it's got powers, it's got actions, it's got bonus actions, reactions, legendary actions, and then way over here in the corner, apocalyptic actions on top of all that. If you are into high level D20 fantasy play, this is definitely the setting for you. Yeah, if the apotheosis trait has been activated in the last hour, Metatron can use the following options as legendary actions: Voice of the Lord and Light of the Lord. Wild, wild stuff. We talked about this the lamb and the lion. Um, Basically, the Son of God writ large as a character, a challenge level 29 character, um, leading the armies into the battle against the adversary and many of the other archangels. But I know you guys really want to take a look at the demons and devils and things like that. But I thought I would show this off. Yeah, holy magic sword coming out of his mouth. Is that symbolic of anything? It I believe it is the physical representation of what is described in the book of Revelations, and then artistic design. Let's go back to the image here. Let's see if we could find. Oh, they split it in half. Damn it. It's the physical representation if an artist were to draw them out. So you'll see some of the Lovecraftian angelic beings um, I'll show you guys many of the angels that are described, and I know there are YouTube channels and other artistic people that have drawn out these angels with multiple wings and no bodies and pure light and eyeballs everywhere and things like that. And I believe that is the case in this artistic design, right? That it's supposed to be Lovecraftian in a way of like I don't understand what this is supposed to represent. I don't mean it. If we take a look to the left on this, I mean, you get the art station style like drawing and whatnot. But if you go to the left, even here, there's sitting upon the throne in the black and white with the black and white and goldish bronze color. there's a sword sticking out of the mouth, and the person's also holding a sword in their hand and pointing to the sky, and whatnot. So same thing. Very, very, very wild, wild. Yes, there are many angels, the classic like humanoid angels with the wings, but even here, the lamb and the lion is wearing a cloak of the lion that has eyes in it and a golden sword and what? It's just I don't you guys know I don't like bo- human body parts in places that they shouldn't be, like eyes and mouths, especially fingers, there where they shouldn't be growing out of other places. Oh, it just it, other body horror I can take, like but I don't know, man. Just too many eyes and limbs and ugh, ugh. Mouths where they. Oh man, sorry. I just got weirded out a little bit. That's I know you that doesn't bother you guys, but for me, mm-mm-mm. What's that monster? The gibbering mouther or something? God, I can't stand that one. These are all the archangels. Many in this setting, those archangels would be giving instructions and guiding the armies of known as the host in the final battles. And what like what's horrible and what I like about this setting is that like this image right here in black and white, the ink etching style imagery here is that when you play your characters in this setting, it doesn't mean that the angelic beings are going to be on your side. They are assembling to fight in the great battle, and you are a peon. You are a uh, many of the angels kind of look not purposefully sometimes, but maybe looking down on you. You're just cannon fodder. You're in the way of us trying to achieve a greater good to win for the forces of goodness and law and justice. But you gotta, you make an omelet, you gotta break some eggs. And player characters and the innocent or semi-innocent people that are left in this world um, have an issue. Now, remember, in character creation, you pick a virtue. Great, that's on the side of goodness. But you also pick a sin. And they may consider, listen, the fact that you have just an ounce of a sin in you, maybe we can start harvesting your body at this very moment and cutting you down. So in classic Dungeons and Dragons, a lot of the goodly creatures, though they're statted out, tend not to be viable enemies, really. But in this setting, yeah, yeah, you might be in their way, and they don't take kindly to you peons telling them what to do or working against their goals if they feel like they're on a divine mission of some sort. Um, Archangel, Gavriel, Raziel, always have to have that at the end of the names, right? Um, Big giant ass stat blocks. If you're someone who, like I said, if you want to run um, tier four Dungeons and Dragons style apocalyptic, post apocalyptic settings with viable enemies, this is what you have. What you should do. Um, I will note that the vast majority of these beings can summon more beings. So it's not like these are going to be one on one. This isn't going to be five player characters trounce an angel and be like, yeah, we kicked his ass or something. That's not going to be the case at all. If you see one, you're going to see a host of beings around them, with them, um, things like that. And then there's a bunch of other NPCs that will come into play in terms of story stuff. So yeah, Drew says eyes are fine. Teeth are what weird me out. Yeah, they're um uh teeth weirdness, ickiness is very common with people. Anything that deals with like the mouth. Uh mine is just mine is the body parts where they don't belong. Yeah. Shai says regains 250 hit points when reduced to 250. So they're saying he's invincible without saying he's invincible. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and listen, it gets worse. If you read some of these stat blocks, it gets worse after that. They're basically saying like, "Oh, guess what? If you drop him to half hit points, he just gains it all back." And I'm like, "So you're saying this is supposed to be impossible?" And the answer to that is yes. They do a good. I will admit, this is the monster book, but they do a good job in explaining that the as player characters, at least in the beginning stages of this game, you are not supposed to just run up to angels and demons and start punching them in the face. What is happening is that you are trying to survive in the last days of the apocalypse. And what does that look like? And you may be sent on missions by one side or the other. You may be pulled in between. And towards the end here, I'll give some descriptions of how I would describe this world and making the virtues and sins of humanity uh, have a physical manifestation of what's out there. Yeah, Shai says body horror, too many eyes, limbs. You know, the real biblical angels of the Old Testament all had those 3 faces and 7 arms and shit. Yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Drew mentions the L at the end of angelic names is referring to, remember the, mm, YHVH. Why is my brain not getting the acronym? since it means is liter- since that means literally God, so it is whatever of God. I've Yes, you are absolutely. First of all, you're absolutely correct, and thank you very much for putting that out because I was like trying to remember like um the 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 Azriel, the Razviel, the Gabriel, the L portion of the end is of God. Yep. Just like people, not just like, but when someone has a name of Dela or duh something like a D apostrophe or Dela is of the um things like that. Well, hell, my um anyone that has like son or daughter on their name is a similar thing where you are the son or daughter of someone else, and but this is of God. It's kind of cool. The as we have our main adversaries, right? The people that the big giant stat blocks, but they do fill the world with others. The elders are challenge rating 5. No one knows who they are. It does mention here, before the heavenly throne are 20 and 4 ancients in rapt adoration. They wear a simple jute habit with a hood concealing their visage. All that is seen of their face is a long, lush, and white beard, dropping almost to the floor. Their wrinkled hands are clenched in prayer, and they continuously intone praises to the Lord. Though they may appear completely human, they have received a blessing elevating them into quasi otherworldly beings. And there are some suggestions of having missions like finding out what their origins are, or there's 24 elders, maybe there's a hidden 25th one. Can you protect them and bring them to the foot of Metatron or the Lord in heaven or something like that? And so there are a number of like story hooks that players may be a part of. Maybe one of the players elevates themselves to become an elder, or there's an individual that is being granted uh, the position of elder, and the PCs need to guide them to take that spot, and maybe this person doesn't want to go. Here are some mighty angels. There is a level above or size category above gigantic in here called Titanic, and these are who they are. Mighty angels representing different parts of different. They have different goals in the Great War. Um, Here's a seraph, and a cherub. I know many times in lots of classic artwork, you imagine the cherubs as being like children. I think they really, they, for good reason, I believe that the setting has kind of shied away from having underage individuals in this world. so that you don't get into the issue of like, um, unfortunately having great violence, even if it is fictitious against um, those who are not of adult age. So you know you don't see unless it's in the ink pressings from the free art that's used in the book. You don't see very many like winged children and things like that, especially at these last days. But I mean, the cherubs here are challenge rating 5, and if you're familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, these are like there's like a million of them hanging around. Or I mean, how many angels do you fit on the head of a pin? As many as you want. Large celestial protectors of souls. It may also be that the players may need to, like I said, find refugees, important people. Like the players may be very important in the sense that the player characters aren't important at all, but they are there to they are the cogs in the large machine to get important people to where they need to be, which would therefore make them important in the long run. But in the beginning, the players might just be average old citizens that are just trying to survive and do their best, and and then get involved. Now we talked about here is another Lovecraftian angel. Um, a blazing sphere appeared in the sky like the sun of the old world. As it neared, it grew to the point that it seemed ready to swallow the heavenly vaults. The impious bore witness to an entity made only of eyes and burning feathers. It glided above them, a great central eye between 6 wings, from which smaller eyes looked on it. And again, this is that artwork. Let's take a greater look. God, oof, just looks horrible. Can I go one more? Yeah, we'll stay right here. And again, very Lovecraftian, apocalyptic. Um, I'm hopefully with these these Italian designers being at the heart of uh, Catholic Christianity, using those descriptions to make these creatures, and then uh, having to stat them out. It's a challenge rating 14. At least that's what they claim here. Here's an Ophan with concentric circles of rings of eyes swirling and moving, and wild, wild. And it's huge too. If you take a look at this image, you can see like a flock of birds, as if this was in the clouds, and it's like the size of a giant cloud, a flock of birds. That's how large this thing is. And it has 12 eyes and 12 different gazes. I like what you said the other day, Drew. Yeah, it's got the burning gaze and the hypnotic gaze and the confusing gaze, but yeah, the male gaze is the worst one. Um, which is a shame too, because I consider myself to have a rather um I don't know. I like things under my male gaze. It's not my fault. Y'all look awesome. Here's a tetramorph. Um, the tetramorph that's made of 4 heads and doesn't have a body, and yeah, yeah, a somewhat human face, lion, calf, and something like an eagle. And it does not have a torso. No, it doesn't have legs. It's got 6 wings. Let's see if I can get to the bottom, literal bottom of this. Yeah, down here, those aren't legs. Those are like beads and hair and whatnot floating above the of a devastated landscape. Mm-mm-mm. Wild, 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 wild. It is symbols incarnated. It is unclear how many tetramorphs exist. Their specific purpose makes it extremely rare to see 2 of them in the same place. It is said that they were created from the souls of men who compiled texts on the life and works of the Lamb and the Lion in good faith, but distorted his teachings. After purifying their souls in purgatory, they were welcomed among the righteous and allowed to serve. Yeah, and you think getting dumped down into the abyss in hell is horrible. Huge monstrosity Thronian. Uh, Wild. Ariel. A mighty winged, a mighty winged lion, its wings and pelt candid and spotless, its towering body encircled by an intense radiant light. Its figure almost appears backlit as bolts of lightning flash from the eyes and transverse the thick mane. Its hind legs show the hooves of a ram, and a sinuous albino serpent forms its tail. This creature appears as a noble and proud chimera, majestic in all its features. Yeah, not just, I mean, yes, a winged lion, but not. Mighty chargers, fearsome in battle. The Lord created the Aurelium as mounts for the seraphim. Loyal and dauntless, these chargers follow their riders into battle, protecting them with their life and fighting without holding back. All Aurelium have a companion seraph to whom they are bound by destiny. So, yeah, you're not going to find it alone. It's going to be fighting next to a seraph. Oof, I think it's challenge rating 4. That's it. Okay, well, wild. But let's get to some. Well, we do have angelic beasts and some of their stats here, like the flaming angel. I mean, eagle, an angelic eagle. But we're going to get to. We definitely want to see the evils. There we go. The adversaries horde, and these are those fighting for on the side of all the words. The abyss, hell, evil, demons, devils, if you will. And this is Satanus. Now, just to let you know, I know Dungeons and Dragons has seemed like it has taken some of the nomenclature and that they own it, but that's not the case. So names like Tiamat, Satanus, um, Demogorgon, Asmodeus or Asmodeus do not belong to WotC or Dungeons and Dragons. Those are names and origins. Now, what they can't do is they can't steal what has been created by another company, but the historic elements they can. And in this instance, this is essentially like Tiamat. Maybe there are other names like uh, oh wow, now my brain is starting to go. Not Satanus. Shaitan is another name. See, is this a two-pager? Let me see if this is a two-page piece of art for Satanus. Now, in this setting, there really isn't one devil. What each of them represent a part of the sins of mankind, and evil incarnate that has um, arisen from the pits of hell to walk upon the earth. And so this just happens to be one of those massive creatures. And Satanus isn't, while Satanus does have a mind, don't think of Satanus as the classic Satan sitting on the throne. This is more of an enemy that has arisen from the oceans and is even described as like you never really even get to see its entire body. But uh, this giant ass stat block here, way over on the left, it has hit points of 907. Okay. Remember I talked about apotheosis? Once a day. If Satanus drops to 400 hit points or less, it regains 400 hit points, recharges half its spent legendary resistances round down, and can use the options featured in the apocalyptic actions section for 1 hour. What? we just went and beat ass on this thing, and it regains 400 hit points after having 907. So technically, it's, let's see, 907 plus 400 would be 1,307 hit points, not including some other features, like, for example, um, oh, there's one where it regains hit points. Um, where is it? I can't read this giant ass thing. There's one of it where it's if it's attacked by, oh, here it is. One of its reactions: absorb profane darkness. When Satanus would take necrotic damage, it does not take damage. It's regaining a number of hit points to half the necrotic damage dealt instead. So yeah, it's just a big giant ass meat bag. And of course, here at the very end of the thing are the apocalyptic actions it can take. When it reaches apotheosis, in addition to all the other legendary actions and bonus actions and reactions it has. So yeah, breath of death, roar of evil, shake the earth. It of course it is a titanic size, which is above gargantuan, and whatever features. Maybe I'll get into that. Um, here's what's known as, I guess you could call, the Antichrist. What Bronze Age drugs were these people ordering all this shit? Yeah, it's wild. It, like I said, this is like a. I'm not a heavy metal listener for the most part, but I mean, if you want to talk about like Morkborg being a spiked um, mace to the flail to the face, this is very much like it. Very much. So the people who made up the Old Testament were a bunch of D&D nerds. Maybe, maybe, yeah. Shaitan, that vegan meat substitute. You're so funny. 400 hit points regained. So problem, just wish, just kill it with a wish spell. I doubt you could do that. Let's take a look. Let's see if you could do that. So if we, because with this giant ass stat block, it has something known as legendary resistances. So I gotta shrink this down a little bit so we can see all of it. One of its, so first of all, it has, before it reaches apotheosis, it has 5 legendary resistances a day. So if Shaitan fails a saving throw, it can choose to succeed instead. And so it has 5 legendary resistances right in that little section. In addition to which it has I know it has a magical resistance. And if I can find it here, aura, no, aura, inaccessible. Oh, right below it. Duh. Satanus has advantage on all saving throws against spells and other magical effects. Has advantage on strength checks and on strength and constitution saving throws. Is immune to any effect that uh, may detect its emotions or read its thoughts. Any wisdom insight checks made to discern Satanus's intentions or sincerity have disadvantage. Of course, it has an aura of Satanus. Satanus? Darkness of Satanus, resistance to any terrain, cursed nature, omniscient. Satanus knows if it's being told a lie. In addition, can't be surprised. It goes on and on and on. Oof, 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 oof. Of course, players are going to want to walk up and punch it in the throat. Uh, the Dark Prophet even talks about the myth of the Antichrist here. We've seen horror movies and other things that talk about the Antichrist. It says, in the old world, before the opening of the seven seals, many were accused of being the Antichrist, often because of that era's religious, political, and social strife. The Dark Prophet was most likely an influential personality in the old world, but no one knows his past identity. After all, his features hidden deep beneath the crown hood are always masked. Yeah, it's the Antichrist. And a powerful necromancer of challenge rating 28, even worse than a lich. who who, according to the lore here, is the one that has summoned Satanus, or is the mouthpiece of Satanus. So they're kind of like one and the same. Like I said, this isn't really the devil and then the devil's hordes. It's facets of that power. Alistair is essentially Lucifero. Does There it is, exile of the first otherworldly conflict. Like Lucifero and Azrael, Alistair still recalls what it meant to exist in the light of the Lord. His candid wings were among the mightiest of the skies, almost as silvery as the clouds from the heart of storms. His name was Uriel, archangel of the cherubim, charged with guarding the gates of Eden with a colossal sword of flame and lightning. He had been created to defend those boundaries in solitude, letting none cross with impunity. He was the one who presided over thunder and terror, for none truly desired to oppose his will. Uriel was blessed, just, and patient, so much so that Metatron preferred him among many. Then Lucifero's rebellion came, and the borders were attacked. Uriel fought back, but his blows were hesitant when raining down on his own brethren. He did not strike with the might he had been granted. He did not call forth the tempest, as was his right, and thus Uriel lost the favor of the Heavenly Father. What happened next is too painful to recall. It was then that he abandoned his name and chose to be called Alastor. And and I would say there's a femininity to this character if they're saying he. So yeah, a bit of androgynous. But there are a number of these fallen and other personages that are in what's challenge rating 22. There's the mark of the beast right here. The a spiral 666 drawn together as the mark of the beast. And many of these beast like beings, the adversaries hordes, are like that. Here we go with Asmodeus or Asmodeus. Again, the name, the title does not belong to fantasy Dungeons and Dragons, but they couldn't make the charismatic, red-skinned, pointed goatee Asmodeus or Asmodeus of the Nine Hells, because that would be stealing their intellectual property. But they can take the name and use the historical uh, details written in mythology. The court of Asmodeus, king of the abyssal city, guardian of the truce, King Solomon's adversary. Yeah, wild. And even this monstrosity is challenge rating 19, which I think is kind of low to me. A huge abyssal fiend, chaotic evil, has 287 hit points and 3 heads. No apotheosis. Does have legendary actions. Does command the city of the abyss. Yes, it's possible for players to visit the place. There's a archdemon. Lords of battle, underwater fighters. A lot of this is when I say Lovecraftian as well. A lot of these beings have come out of the deep ocean, probably because back in the Old Testament era, much as we were, much of our fears came from like darkness and the sky and the ocean, and just like Lovecraftian horrors come from ocean as well. I think the same thing is here. Here we go. From the racked abyssal waters burst forth a shape uncanny to behold. The archdemon, or arc demon, is a fiend that shocks and horrifies those looking upon it, even an instant. Its body is divided into 2 parts. The lower is that of a great serpent lost amid the waves. The upper is a humanoid angel, deformed and corrupted. A pair of additional arms spring from its sides, each hand brandishing a wickedly sharp weapon. Above the archdemon's back, membranous wings like those of a dragon tower, increasing its stature. Its shadowed face is barely visible, hidden by a tangle of serpents, fierce and threatening. So it is very much Chimera, Medusa, um, combination of all those things, like a Medusa-like head, snakes, multiple arms, dragon-like body, and of course, all these things are classic human fears, right? Snakes are fearful, bats are strange, serpents, and you combine all that with a humanoid body or face, and you've got yourself some damn evil things. Demon of temptation, Lucifero's brothers in arms, led into temptations. That's my kitty Sophie. She may be feeling a little sad because Boots was sick and we had to send her home. These are only demons of temptation are only challenge rating 2. Wormwood demons, so on. Of course, you have to have goat demons as well. Yeah, Sophie. Hey, I know it's getting towards the end. Beasts from the sea. Look at that thing. Look at that thing. Heads, multiple heads where they shouldn't be. Oof. These are not human. It's human body parts I don't like. I hear you, Sophie. So, idol of the beast. Impure spirits. They do mention in this setting that the the description of something in Dungeons and Dragons classically known as undead is not necessarily what we would consider that in classic Dungeons and Dragons, because many of these people have not moved on. So some people that have passed away are still roaming around as spirits and such, and that just happens to be the case. Yeah, it's almost an hour. I know. I'm giving you head scratchies now. Yeah. Of course, I talked about the abyssal locusts, abyssal mastiffs, and then we get into conquest and the Four Horsemen. And again, the Four Horsemen do not align with any side in the battle. They were awakened, brought into the world when the seals were broken, and then scattered to the four corners of the plane of the Armageddon, the abyss. Come on, kitty, come here. Yeah, you're just stepping on anything. Oh shoot! No! You did not do that. And that's all right. Thanks, kitty. Um, there we go. And the players, again, this is supposed to be a game. You may have to adventure into one or more of the places that are detailed in um, detailed in the Four Horsemen, and go to their regions and have to figure out how to navigate. So yes, they do detail the Four Horsemen as um, with a stat block. So the deal. If you stat it, they can kill it, right? But like for example, Conquest is a challenge rating 20 being, and they do detail like if you're going to be called Conquest, there's definitely going to be hordes and armies and things of that nature, people being taken over. Conquest, the Four Horsemen are kind of considered elemental, so this is a huge elemental um, of storm and wind and oppression, forcing the people that are kind of still around to hide and to be terrified because of the term conquest, uh, as opposed to war. But yeah, crazy, crazy. Um, I love those etchings. I love those etchings. Mm, 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 mm. I wish there were more tools in role playing games to see the idea of standing on a giant plane doing battle with a giant army or something. And I understand that you'd almost have to do like a mini game. But there's something cool. There's something very classic too about the player characters being either like a member of a giant army or assembling together. And I just wish there were easier ways or more fluid ways to incorporate um, those elements back and forth. Now, what you could do is like spotlight on the player characters and then zoom out in the battle in the armies and see what's going on and then zoom back into the player characters and such. I mean, there's ways to do it. I just wish that there were more role playing games that just made it very especially one that's so focused on battles and wars in terms of large scale conflict that you could just easily assess your character sheet and go, okay, well, here's what my troop movements are doing or something like that. You know, even if it is a mini game. Here's the monarchs over in war, champions, um, CR8 creatures of different types. You know, a la what's the movie? 300, something like that. Legionnaires, of course, and Infernal Panther. Saw some of this. Um, the Ranks of Famine. Nasty stuff here as well. Look at these etchings. I love it so much. Mm-mm-mm. Why you would even want to fight any of these creatures on their own lair, their own home turf is just beyond me. I mean, even in this little stat thing, it says famine in his lair has a challenge rating of 21, worth 33,000 experience points. Yeah, because because they do all this extra shit. Oh man, let me get back to what you guys have to say though, so we can and then get us out of here. Yeah, conquest or one of the four riders of colonialism. Yeah, yeah. The Antichrist is due here in late January. He's so bad. If you put a bag of holding inside a bag of holding, can you just drop one of these? Wait, well, doesn't wouldn't something happen immediately? I mean, I guess you could throw a bag of holding over the face of one of them and then shove a bag of holding over top of the bag of holding. Or what's the other one? Portable hole or Heward's handy haversack, something like that. Yeah, I can't remember all these stat blocks. It's crazy. These are just phew. Spurs of famine. Look at that. Look at that image here, though. Ooh, look, just dumping people into a pit. I don't know where they got that from. The Herald of Hunger, challenge rating 12. Head of the cult, holder of the serum. Do I say to be fed or be fed to the machine? Tormentors, the ravenous. Mm-mm-mm. I, undead. If you, it's hard. Yeah, last ones of unsettling appearance roam the lands near the shanty towns surrounding the horsemen's sepulture. Naked, malnourished, mutilated, their skin covered in sores, their eyes hollow, their heads hairless. The creaking of their bony joints, grinding teeth, and hissing breath foreshadow their arrival. They are almost they are almost more skeleton than man. Of course, they are crazed with hunger, protected by famine, and they are a raving mob. Armor class 10, 33 hit points. Darn, they're a little hard to put down. Mm-mm-mm. They are rabid and have a poisonous attack, of course, because they're filled with pus and sores and things like that. And they do have a bite, trying to spread that around. Like I said, are they undead? Yeah. Progeny of Cerberus or Cerberus. This person is getting one pit bull's bad enough. Three-headed ones are just whew, horrible. And then lastly, armies of death. And of course, death is detailed here. Headless roaming, death slayer, the aura of death, death secrets, domains and goals. And then of course, death is a challenge rating 21 being with so many. Like here we go. Summon souls once a day. Death magically summons 1d4 plus 1 specters. And that's just a little minor thing with all the other kind of stuff. So it's not like Death's going to be chilling on a throne somewhere and you just walk up and I'm going to surprise him. That's not what happens here. Um, they not that it needs to be, but they do wear many of these the horsemen wear spurs because they ride on a pale horse of some sort, and those spurs allow because their mount also is a powerful creature. So death rides on the green nightmare, which is a huge elemental as well. And yeah, Sophie, so lay down. Either that or help me make another ASMR channel and you just purr in the microphone. Is that what you're gonna do? All right, kitty. Okay. I'm gonna put you down. All right, Sophie. So. Thank you, kitty. She is the producer. Okay, we're gonna get out of here. Of course, you've got skeletal servants and things of that nature. Lots of monsters, lots of use for them. I promised I would tell you how I would use some of these. So there are some tropes of horror that I would use in this setting when using like monsters and adversaries and your introduction to many of these monstrous apocalyptic beings. I wouldn't have players just turn the corner and find another one, turn the corner, find another one, turn the corner, find another one. No, I would have these monsters, these adversarial beings on missions, performing something, whether it is mindless or what have you. And one way to create horror is to take innocence and mix it with horrible imagery. So an example is if you ever take a look at some horror movies, what they'll do is they'll take innocence. Innocence will be like baby dolls, or they will take a seemingly safe place like a clean kitchen, or they will take usually using uh, white and bleached clothing, and then what they do with it is they mix it with a horror. They will take the whitest region and splash it with red. They will take a small child's doll and have it seeped in a gutter, or remove one of the eyes and have it rolled in the mud or something like that. I would do something similar in this apocalyptic setting in terms of describing things by um, mixing and matching the impressions of safety and innocence and merging it with horror to turn something even more horrible. For example, um, you could have a gaggle of trolls in this world, and they are tearing at the belly of one of the trolls because they had impregnated it, and they're trying to remove the child the out of the belly of one of the trolls that is like screaming as these trolls are, because the flesh is trying to regrow, and they are basically in this cycle of consuming each other and whatnot. I would have the angelic beings and angelic hosts, bringing their light of purity, but the angel would be dragging behind it the half a torso of the slain and dead, as blood covers its face and drips from its blade and whatnot, staining its white wings, red on the tips or something, so on and so forth. Like I would mix what would seemingly be a good and pure thing, you know, mind you, this would be very adult and mature, but and then mix that with very horrible things like disease and famine and mud and blood and organs and behaviors that are indecent and decadent and despicable, and mix those two together to just make this place very difficult to watch. Yeah. Since I just watched AJ Pickett's video on the ethereal ooze, I think that would work. I definitely think it would. Yesterday I was stoked on Apocalypse, but this statting out invincible celestials is just typical Gaxian retardation. I'm not going to argue with you. I don't. Would I like the idea they exist? I don't really like statting things out, but it's it's the thing that sells, right? Like players want to know that they can walk up and punch things. But all right, man, have a great one. Be good, be good, be good. We're out of here. So anyway, lastly, let's move on. Skeletal horses. Um, these are threats on the plane. This is basically all the stuff like this imagery here with uh collapsed structures and buildings and people screaming to the sky and praying and hoping that they are remember, none of the player characters have gone off to the other world. They are still left here, and there's probably a good reason why, because they probably did some pretty heinous things in their life. Um, Here's Lucifero Reborn. Uh, Pretty easy to accept who Lucifero is. Lucifero Gargantuan Fiend, challenge rating 25. Oof. Yeah. Lucifero. Abaddon. Abaddon? Abaddon? Um, what is the description here? Abaddon is the beating of four mighty wings in the silence of the celestial dusk. His angelic face, once radiant, bears the marks of unmistakable darkness born from torment and betrayal. His moon-white skin contrasts with his raven hair and changes color below the elbows and hips, becoming an unnatural hue of green, like oxidized copper. He wears a dark cloak that can wrap around his entire body, but is constantly pushed back by the beating of his wings. Below this mantle, Abaddon stands, still dons the same cuirass and golden greaves that he wore when serving the Lord. His beauty and magnetic aura of command have endured, though they become ever darker as his halo dampens. Taking the shape of arching horns upon his head, Abaddon resembles the melancholic Lucifero, just deprived of divine light, an angel in the crucial moment of his fall. An entity once celestial and brimming with absolute convictions, now bearing a new and indescribable uncertainty. And I like these fallen angels. You can even see the halos kind of like fading out a little bit. Got the cloak and the giant wings. Arrives with the seventh seal. Challenge rating 26, large celestial Thronian being. I think he was a guardian. Azazel. The Leviathan's lair, coming out of the deep ocean. The behemoth, gargantuan monstrosity. Don't see too many hippopotamus mutated things. Serpent, the serpent of Eden, kind of cool. May try to tempt one of the player characters. Spirit of Solomon, who is challenge rating 5. Blissful souls, which are dangerous themselves, even though they're lawful good. You may be in their way when they attempt to do something else. There's a depraved soul here. Blood slice floating upwards in the sky. Plagued Vultures, and these things exist on the plane. And then we have the other books that are available. So thank you very much for letting me this page through. Um, Again, you want to talk about post-apocalyptic settings, this is definitely it. Um, it does have suggestions on how to arrange for the last battle, which side the players may want to fight for, if any side, whether they want to pick a side or remain independent and in the middle, defending themselves, and even trying to rationalize whether picking a side is even a good idea, that maybe fighting for themselves and fighting for their own freedom may be the point. Again, it's based on biblical scripture, so this could rub people the wrong way, but yeah, kind of cool. Acheron Games, made in Italy, shared worldwide. So, guys, thank you very much for letting me show this off to you. Everyone, have a great day. Thank you very much for just being part of the show. If you find this later, I really appreciate it as well. There's some other things I want to show you guys. Some little simple things. Here is the Time Magazine issue of Dungeons and Dragons, the game that changed the world. I just want to get this for prosperity, history. It's pretty interesting. If I'm sure you guys know far more in the gaming community than was listening to the magazine, but it is interesting to have some of the important points, history of the game actually in this magazine. Very cool, to be honest with you. Maybe we might talk about that as well one day. So, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it, and thank you very much for allowing me to just be part of your time. I know your time is very valuable. So, in return, I hope I can give you change for interacting, guys. As always, I ask for a call to action. Please like, share, subscribe, spread the word, and leave a comment or two below just to let me know what you guys would like to see in the future, if anything. Have a great day. I'll see you later. Bye.